My friends, well, we're going to do something which we shouldn't do. Speakers, teachers are always taught never to begin with an apology, so I begin with an apology. The internet is out in our apartment. I am now in a communal space. There could be extraneous noise, the sound, the echoing, whatever. But we're going to go. So Shabbat Shalom, my friends. No apologies. Our Sedra is EMOR Leviticus 21:1 and following. This text is actually a bit of a goulash. Instead of a single theme uniting the entire weekly selection, we have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, all thrown into the same pot together. But just because there is no central organizing theme for the Sedra, that doesn't mean that what we're reading this week is anything less than really important. The Sedra opens by expanding the rules surrounding the priests, the family of Aaron. How does a Kohen mourn? Should a priest's mourning be different than the mourning of a lay Israelite? How are marriage and divorce handled by the priests as well as by their immediate family members? Can marrying someone whom the Torah considers to be inappropriate for the priest cause the priest to lose his perquisites? Is it possible for one to serve in the tabernacle as a member of the tribe of Levi, even though he has physical limitations? Can a blind Levite or a lame Levite participate in the sacrificial rituals? That's the first part of the Sedra. The end of the Sedra has a totally different focus. It tells us of an Israelite who blasphemes God in public and who was then judged and publicly stoned to death. This, by the way, was a direct application of lex talionis, the doctrine of retribution, which is firmly implanted throughout the Torah text. And in the middle of our Sedra, priests, blasphemer, in the middle we find an expanded description of the nature of the Jewish ritual calendar. Now, it's not that the negative attitudes toward the handicapped found in the Torah this week aren't interesting and also quite troubling, and it's not that the stoning to death of someone who blasphemes God in the public domain provokes among us a few troubling questions. But let's turn our attention today to the Jewish calendar, which is found in the middle of this week's Sedra, and see if there are insights there that still want to speak to us. Shai Held wants us to look first at Rosh Hashanah. Wait, we know all about Rosh Hashanah, right? Its overriding theme is creation, Hayom Harat Olam. This is the birthday of the world. This is the day on which the process of creation began. This is the day in which God sought to impose limitation and control over chaos, to restrain those forces that would make our world impossible for life to be sustained. But God doesn't destroy chaos on Rosh Hashanah. Chaos remains, struggling 24/7 to break out of the restraints that God placed upon it. Primal forces everywhere want desperately to destroy whatever it is that we mean when we call something human civilization. We affirm that God started the controlling of chaos on Rosh Hashanah, but that job isn't over. Rosh Hashanah really is a warning that creation is far from over, far from complete. Okay, we celebrated Passover, Pesach, some 5 weeks ago. With joyous singing, with ancient rituals, loaded tables, we raised up freedom from slavery and the birth of the Jewish people as our eternal banners. Our enemies were drowned, and inappropriately, I guess, we sang songs of thanksgiving. We embodied our experiences in a powerfully attractive and richly variegated Jewish ritual. But only the willfully blind would assert that those ancient victories are enough. Don't be fooled by Dayenu. The freedom won back then from the Egyptians isn't enough. Even as we sat around our Sedra tables in 2021, we understood that the tasks associated with Passover are not nearly complete. There are forces at work in our society that would strip away our freedoms. Passover, like Rosh Hashanah, is a work in process. Friday, April 30th was Lag Bomer, unfortunately a terrible disaster, Mount Meron in Israel, the 33rd day of the counting of the Omer. The days following Passover, one by one, leading up to Shavuot, are days of counting and of mourning. The rabbis insisted on linking the story of the desperation of many Jews following the destruction of the Second Temple to reverse their national defeat and to reclaim national independence, connecting that to the counting of the Omer. They'd received no sign from God that their insurrection would succeed, but they fought on. They fought on, and then they were brutally crushed. The counting between Passover and Shavuot. So let there be no doubt that the battle against our enemies, those who would physically assault us, or those who would desecrate our buildings, or those who would spin webs of conspiracy as they seek to loudly affirm the lies, the calumnies thrown against us throughout history, let there be no doubt that those battles are continuing. They're ongoing. The Omer still needs to be counted, not just between Passover and Shavuot, but that counting must always go on. Work in progress? Fine. So is Yom Kippur. Think about it. Yom Kippur exists because the Torah understands human weaknesses, human vulnerabilities, and a human proclivity to refuse to learn from the past. Yom Kippur acknowledges that despite the ease by which we slide into sin, most of us yearn for a way back to holiness, to healing. Yom Kippur guides us back to the starting line for Rosh Hashanah and the New Year. Different way to look at it. Yom Kippur guides us to the starting line. We acknowledge our weaknesses, our errors. We correct what can be corrected. We try to heal the damage that we have done. We try to stand blameless before God. We feel as we approach Ne'ilah that we have dealt openly and honestly with the past, and so we reach toward forgiveness. But our need for Yom Kippur never diminishes, never fades, never disappears. The work of Yom Kippur never ends until we take our final breath. We are constantly commanded to choose wisely, but not every one of our choices is consistent with the commands for us to act justly, with mercy, with love. Yom Kippur is also a work in progress and will forever remain such so long as human beings exist. One of the best things about living in Israel, there are so many good things, is the manner in which the Jewish calendar shapes our lives. We live in Israel, the Jewish calendar. But for Jews around the world who read this week's Sedra, our calendar is a gateway to the entirety of Jewish wisdom. Again, the calendar is a gateway to the entirety of Jewish wisdom, both the most transcendent and the most practical and mundane. Celebrate Rosh Hashanah and acknowledge the role of human beings in pushing back encroaching chaos. Celebrate Passover and remember that freedom is always under attack. Celebrate Lag BaOmer and grasp that the battle against anti-Semitism to this very day threatens our security. Observe Yom Kippur and understand that all of us, each and every one of us, we are a work in progress. We are a fragile vessel that contains the seeds worthy of the presence of God. Our people's calendar is really a Torah in its own right, teaching us of the past so that we can shape better tomorrows. Our calendar is forever a work in progress, and so are we. So, just want to study the calendar? Lots of good stuff there. Shabbat Shalom. Have a beautiful week.